My name is Roman Goyle. I was the owner of a big company. I drove my large luxury car to a grand office building, dressed in an expensive suit and branded shoes, wearing sunglasses. When my assistant opened the car door and saluted me, I stepped out and removed my sunglasses. As I entered the office, everyone became alert and greeted me respectfully. With guards and assistants around, I reached my room, always wearing a serious and stern expression. I owned this large construction company. Many girls working there admired me, but due to my behavior, none could ever express their feelings. When I entered my room, my secretary brought me coffee, which I couldn't start my day without. I took a sip and began working on my laptop. At that moment, my PA knocked, asking permission to enter. I allowed him in, and a smile appeared on my face because I knew he must be bringing important news. I asked, "What news do you have?" Though busy with my laptop, I asked my PA. He said, "David Anderson's biggest weakness is his youngest daughter, who is helpless. His two elder daughters are married, but the youngest is mostly bedridden and unable to speak. David is secretly sending her abroad, to stay with her aunt in London." I smiled deeply and said, "Interesting, that's great news. I want his daughter at my farmhouse. Then he will suffer, and I will bring him down from the sky to the ground." I gave my PA secret instructions quietly, and he nodded silently before leaving. I clenched my fists tightly because the time had come for revenge. I closed my eyes, controlling my tears and focusing my mind. Memories of the past flashed before my eyes. I knew David was taking steps for his daughter's safety and benefit, but what he had done to someone else's daughter haunted me. My sister, Clara, had begged me with tears, "Brother, save me. He will kill me. Please save me." Her innocent voice still burned my heart. I tried everything to save her but failed. The last time I saw Clara, her eyes were closed. I was shaking her, crying, "Clara, please wake up, your brother is here." But her body was cold, and her eyes remained shut forever. Those painful memories were like a dagger buried deep inside me. I could never forget anything. When bad times come, people never forget the pain, the incidents, or the people involved. I remembered every atrocity done to my family clearly. I silently vowed that David's daughter would suffer the same fate. My eyes reddened with rage, but to calm myself, I thought of a beautiful evening when I met an enchanting girl for the first time. Her long, black hair was flowing in the breeze by the sea, and when I saw her face, I thought she was an angel, not a girl. I never met her again, but thinking of that evening still brings a smile to my face and softens my harsh expressions. After that, I checked important emails on my laptop. I had a flight that afternoon. David was preparing to send his daughter abroad, deeply worried about her. When I learned he had returned to the city, I decided to take my revenge. I sent my men to keep a close watch on his house. 3 days ago, 2 goons entered David's home and went to his daughter Clara's room. Despite heavy security, these men managed to get inside, proof they were very cunning. The servants immediately alerted security. It was 9 a.m. when the intruders entered. David was sleeping peacefully, and Clara was bedridden. A servant rushed to David's room, shouting that intruders were in Clara's room. David's world shook. He grabbed his revolver and shouted for the guards and servants to catch the intruders, saying he would decide their fate himself. The goons tried to escape but were caught, severely beaten unconscious, and locked in the basement. David Anderson was terrified by the incident. As soon as he reached his daughter Clara, he hugged her tightly, asking if she was hurt. Clara just wept silently, unable to speak, which worried him deeply. He decided to send her to London to stay with her aunt for safety, telling her he would come to bring her back once things settled. Clara initially refused to go, but David was determined not to take any risks. My men had informed me that David loved Clara, who was helpless and mute, and was preparing to send her away. To reassure her, he told Clara to rest in her room while he stepped out briefly to return by afternoon. Taking advantage of David's absence, my trusted man, Mark, who worked as David's guard, went into Clara's room. Clara, still scared and sitting quietly, was told by Mark that there was an emergency and that David had sent him to escort her quietly to London without anyone knowing. Though suspicious, Clara reluctantly followed him. Mark cleverly disabled the CCTV cameras before leaving the bungalow with Clara and reactivated them afterward to avoid suspicion. Clara sat quietly in the car but soon grew suspicious. Mark stopped abruptly to make a phone call, after which two burly women emerged from the farmhouse where Mark had taken her. They forcibly dragged Clara inside, terrifying her as she struggled helplessly, realizing this was not the safe place her father had promised. Mark returned to the bungalow acting as if nothing happened. Later that evening, when David came home and found Clara missing, he panicked and ordered everyone to search for her. Despite alerting the security and searching the entire house, there was no sign of Clara. Checking the CCTV footage, David saw a mysterious half-hour gap in the videos and sat down overwhelmed with regret and fear, suspecting his enemies had kidnapped her. He commanded his men to find her at any cost. Meanwhile, I was at a club celebrating David Anderson's defeat and my victory, dancing and drinking amidst loud music and colorful lights, feeling a rare moment of joy and lightness in my otherwise serious demeanor. A girl in a red dress, smoky eye makeup, and red lipstick approached me, asking me to dance. Though I usually avoided such attention, tonight I accepted, but as I held her delicate hand, my mind drifted to the beautiful girl by the sea whose face haunted me still, Clara. Overwhelmed by memories and emotions, I let go and left the club, heading back to the farmhouse. Meanwhile, Clara sat trapped in the room, crying helplessly. She was scared, anxious, the same anxiety she had felt 8 years ago when she was just 12. What happened after that night changed Clara's life forever, stealing all her happiness and leaving her in a pitiable state. I had gone straight from the club to the farmhouse, getting a full report from my men that Clara was locked up in her room. A victorious smile spread across my face as I headed to that room, intent on crushing David Anderson's greatest weakness, his youngest and most beloved daughter. The room was dark, lit only by a dim night bulb, where I found Clara kneeling with her head down, sobbing quietly. Turning on the light, I laughed, taunting her that fate had brought David's weakness right to me and now many advantages were mine because of her. I told her I knew she was innocent but that she would have to pay for her father's deeds. Clara's long black hair fell across her tear-streaked face and floor, and when I saw her face clearly, it shocked me deeply. It was the same face I could never forget. Though I had come for revenge, her innocent look scared me, my heart pounded wildly. She tried to back away, attempting to speak but words failed her. As she tried to run, she slipped and hit her forehead on the edge of the table, blood flowing fast before she fainted. I panicked, shouted for a doctor, and cradled her bleeding head in my lap, trying to stop the bleeding. The trauma was immense. This was the same girl I had loved 4 years ago by the sea, whose memory haunted me daily. Dr. Victor, my close friend, arrived soon, bandaged Clara's head, gave her an injection, but she still hadn't regained consciousness. I sat beside her, torn between my desire for revenge against David and the love I still held for Clara, the girl whose name I never even knew but prayed to meet again. Smoking a cigarette to calm myself, I realized I stood at a crossroads: either surrender to love or pursue vengeance by destroying her dignity and punishing David. As I pondered, memories flooded back of my own childhood in a wealthy family where my little sister Sarah was my world, scared of the threats from David's family, our longtime rivals due to land disputes and old grudges. One harsh winter night, in the dark with power out, David's men broke into our home, shooting my mother and holding my father captive. I was helpless, restrained, while my family was left crying and defenseless in our secluded mansion, my father's peaceful refuge now a nightmare that threatened our very lives. A man grabbed my sister, and 2 others dragged her into a room. At that time, my sister Clara was only 15 years old. They locked the door from inside just as David Anderson's voice rang out, praising his men to inflict pain and suffering, telling them not to leave anyone alive, not even Clara. My sister screamed desperately for me to save her, but one man held me firmly, preventing me from moving forward. I was shouting for them to let her go, tears in my eyes. I was only 17 then, now I am 25. I watched helplessly as my sister's screams faded away. Those cruel men had dishonored and killed her. Her lifeless face told the story of her pain. Below, my father was shouting, but the attackers had shot him. I kept calling out to Clara to wake up, but then I heard gunshots and felt a bullet pierce my side. The pain overwhelmed me, and I collapsed unconscious as darkness enveloped the house. The only light left was a single night bulb in the lounge, powered by a generator. That night was a nightmare for all of us. Each family member's ordeal was unimaginable. The attackers, led by David Anderson, thought they had succeeded in killing us all, but I survived, though unconscious. The next morning, when help arrived, only I remained alive. My parents and Clara had died. A bullet had grazed my right abdomen, but thankfully caused no deep internal injury. I spent a week in the hospital while my uncle and aunt took care of me and arranged the funeral. They asked me who was responsible, but I told them I didn't know. The attackers were strangers, probably robbers who turned violent when confronted. I lied to the police because I didn't want to name David Anderson, knowing he'd be jailed only briefly before using his wealth and influence to get out. David was not just a wealthy man but also a corrupt political leader surrounded by powerful people who respected him publicly. After that night, David disappeared and later moved to London. I vowed in my heart that when he returned, I would take my revenge and make his family suffer. For years later, David came back but avoided me, leaving soon after. Years passed, and I lived like a walking corpse, driven only by the fire of revenge. My uncle took me in, ensured my education, and I became a civil engineer, opening my own office under a new name to keep my identity secret from David. One evening, while watching the news and drinking tea, I heard that David Anderson was returning to America after many years. The news ignited my burning desire for revenge. Now I was ready to face him. I had intelligence, wealth, and cunning. I sent my trusted men to keep an eye on David, learning that he was increasing his security. I instructed two of my closest men, Sam and Peter, to infiltrate David's household as servants and guards to gather every piece of information for me. They agreed to carry out the secret mission. I was planning this with my two trusted men, Sam and Peter, who had successfully gained the trust of David Anderson and infiltrated his mansion. Over the course of a year, my loyal men uncovered many of David's secret plans and shared them with me, which helped me strategically cause him several defeats. David was no longer the same powerful man. That year alone he suffered massive losses and political rivals started targeting him. They even tried to threaten his daughter, which made David extremely worried for her safety. When Sam informed me that David's biggest weakness was his young daughter, I felt a surge of satisfaction and was reminded of how my sister Clara's honor was destroyed and she was killed. I decided to take my revenge by hurting his daughter the same way. But I didn't know then that David's daughter was Clara, the very girl I had secretly cared for over the past 4 years. Torn between forgiving Clara out of love or taking revenge for her father's atrocities, I was lost in thought when I saw Clara shaking and mumbling in her sleep, saying things like "Don't kill Dad and Aunt, please don't hurt Mom." It shocked me because Sam had told me Clara was mute and mentally weak, unable to speak. I immediately took Clara to my friend Michael, a renowned psychiatrist, who diagnosed her with post-traumatic stress disorder, explaining that such trauma causes patients to stop speaking and live in fear. Michael started Clara's treatment and prescribed medication. I treated Clara gently, not wanting to torture her but wanting to use her to get back at David. Clara, fearful and quiet, gradually started showing signs of improvement, even asking me who I was. I assured her I was a friend who only wanted to protect her, and slowly she began trusting me. Meanwhile, David was frantic searching for his missing daughter but kept everything secret, not involving police or media to avoid giving his enemies an advantage. Just before an urgent meeting in America, he instructed his staff to give him hourly reports on Clara's whereabouts. As Clara grew stronger, I continued her therapy, while David returned from America. I anonymously tipped off the police about illegal activities at David's hotel, which led to a raid and his arrest. He tried to make false excuses, neglecting Clara's situation, and soon after, he was released from jail. However, a social media campaign vilifying him began, alongside rumors about Clara's disappearance. Even David's close friends distanced themselves, and he spiraled into deep depression, his blood pressure spiked, and blood was coming from his nose. Then, an old servant advised David to leave the country for a few days until things calmed down. David agreed, saying he would book a ticket to Dubai the next day. Before leaving, he instructed his staff to spread the word that false accusations had been made against him by his enemies, causing his health to deteriorate and forcing doctors to send him to Dubai for treatment. He also ordered $1 million to be donated to the poor in his name to restore his reputation and asked them to try finding Clara as well. Taking his blood pressure medication, David explained everything before leaving. After 3 months of relentless effort, Clara had returned to normal, and that day I decided to tell her the whole truth. I approached her and asked if she would help me after knowing everything. She held my hand and said, "You gave me a new life, David. I'll do anything for you." Smiling, I took a deep breath and revealed the harsh truth about her father, what he had done to me and my family years ago. Hearing this, Clara became dizzy, clutching her head and then fainting on my chest. Seeing her pale and weak terrified me. I feared she might relapse into trauma. I hurriedly took her to Dr. Michael's hospital, praying as I paced the corridor. The doctor reassured me that Clara was fine. Her fainting was due to low blood pressure caused by weakness, and after an 4 drip, her condition improved. He insisted she stay overnight, but Clara begged to go home, crying and adamant. Helpless, I agreed. At home, I had the nurse prepare milk and brought her medication, which Clara took quietly, looking relieved. Then she told me seriously about the accident that changed her life and how cruel her father truly was, deserving punishment. Gathering courage, Clara shared that David was born into a poor family obsessed with making money at any cost, involving himself and his friends in illegal activities and building a business empire while remaining corrupt and deceitful. She revealed how David's greed led to murdering a prominent politician who was also his wife's brother. When Clara's mother overheard this truth, her world shattered. Clara's elder sister was taken by their uncle, while Clara stayed with their parents. Her mother confronted David, accusing him of being a greedy, deceitful man and threatening to expose him, which enraged him to the point he violently attacked his wife and sister. Clara, just a child, witnessed this horror and fainted. Since then, she stopped speaking or smiling and only cried. Clara pleaded with me, saying David had also killed her uncle and aunt, and she wanted justice, explaining her past mental condition had kept her silent, but if she recovered, she would expose his truth because she hated him deeply. "Please, David, never leave me, or I will die," Clara said, clutching my neck as tears streamed down my face. With trembling hands, I hugged her tightly and thought how grateful I was that I hadn't destroyed her honor in anger that night. If I had, it would have caused me immense pain, just like the pain Clara felt in her heart then. I remembered why Clara's eyes were filled with sadness and emptiness that evening 4 years ago. She confessed, "David, I want to marry you." I had already loved her and wanted to accept her wholeheartedly, so after my consent, we got married. Today, Suresh informed me that Sheldon Armstrong was returning to the country for his court hearing. A smile spread across my face because my mission was about to be fulfilled. I told Clara, "Tomorrow is our victory day. We will go to court and reveal Sheldon Armstrong's truth." Explaining to Clara, I said Sheldon was immediately arrested upon arrival, and when he saw his own daughter with a man in court, he was shocked. I introduced myself to him with a smile. "Recognize me, Sheldon?" "Oh, I'm sorry, father-in-law. I'm David Green, son of Daniel Green and your daughter's husband." Hearing this, Sheldon was stunned and shaken. I presented all the evidence against Sheldon in court with witnesses present. Clara tearfully revealed how her father had murdered her mother and aunt, and I testified about how he destroyed my family. Sheldon shouted that it was all lies, that his daughter was deceived, and claimed innocence, but his trembling voice betrayed him. The proof clearly showed Sheldon Armstrong's greed and cruelty, witnessed by those he had wronged. The truth about Sheldon was now out, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment. No money or influence could save him this time. Clara cried as she hugged me, and we remembered our pain together. I comforted her. "Stop crying, Clara. Sheldon Armstrong is punished, and justice will be served in God's court too." Wiping her tears, Clara pleaded, "Please, David, take me home. That day, I took Clara not to the farmhouse but to my home and respectfully introduced her to my uncle and aunt. Meanwhile, Sheldon screamed and begged in prison, but no one heard him. The government seized all his property, and he was left alone in darkness, isolated and forgotten. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years, and loneliness drove him mad. His punishment was cruel, to spend his life helpless and isolated. Today, I am happy with my wife Clara, and we never look back at the painful past but move forward toward our new life. Friends, I hope you liked our story. If you did, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you get the latest updates first.